Russian President Vladimir Putin again suggesting nuclear weapons if the West gets in his way in Ukraine. The new warning coming after Russia test-fired a ballistic missile last week capable of carrying a massive nuclear warhead. Let's bring in South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, great to have you here.
Thank you.
Even on this program, you have called for his assassination. You've doubled down on that in recent weeks, saying, I just want him to go. Based on this barely veiled nuclear threat now from Vladimir Putin, if the West continues to intervene, what do you want to see happen to him?
Well, I think this is the fourth time in a week he's mentioned nuclear behavior, right? Nuclear retaliation if we keep helping the Ukraine. I don't think for a minute we're going to have World War III over Ukraine. I don't think the Russian military would execute an order if Putin issued one to go into a full-scale nuclear war, because nobody wins that. But for the first time, to be honest with you, I believe it's possible they may explode a low-level nuclear device in Ukraine to try to break our will. And I would consider that attack on NATO itself, because the radiation would go beyond the Ukraine. So I really do believe he's up against the ropes, Putin is. And that speech he gave in the Duma was very interesting to me.
Is that just a speculation, Senator, or have you heard any specific intelligence has been received to that point?
Speculation on my part, but I think we're entering a phase of the war where he's adjusted his ambitions. The goal of the war was to decapitate the Ukrainian government, get rid of Zelensky and put a puppet in place. Now the goal is to consolidate the East. He changed his ambitions in the speech to the Duma, but the fact he gave his speech to the Duma trying to reassure the Duma and the Russian people that he's committed to this invasion and he's ratcheted back his ambitions tell me a lot about how the war is going. But if this artillery works, if the weapons we're giving the Ukrainians begin to inflict more pain on the Russian military, I would not be surprised at all if he exploded a nuclear weapon in Ukraine to back us off.
Senator, you say that he's on the ropes, but you want to put him on the ropes even further. You've got new legislation that you want to introduce.
Yeah, I want to designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. We have that for Iran. I believe the law we have fits Putin's behavior.
And what do you think the effect of that would be?
Oh, it would hurt their economy even more. Being a state sponsor of terrorism really limits your ability to do business throughout the world. And I think Putin himself is a terrorist. He's terrorized Syria. He's destroying the Ukraine as we speak. He's threatening nuclear war. If that doesn't qualify you to be a leader of a state terrorist organization, what would? And I also want to include his military. What I'm trying to do is make this war real to the people around Putin, that if you continue to follow his lead, you're going to regret it as an individual.
What do you think his next move is in the immediate future? As we now have a total of 5 million Ukrainian refugees, those people who have fled that country. These mass graves are being discovered. The civilian, the humanitarian crisis playing out on the ground there. It is awful, Senator.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more atrocities. You're going to try the idea of using a chemical weapon is probably on the table now. What I think you're going to see is him start attacking the weapons delivery systems that, we're flowing weapons into Ukraine like long-range artillery that can pound Russian troops in the east. I think he's going to be more brutal when it comes to the Donbass and the east. You're going to see more war crimes, not less. I think you're going to see him be more aggressive toward Western nations. I think you're going to hear more about nuclear retaliation. The guy has gotten a tiger by the tail called the Ukraine, and we got a chance to take him down, and I hope we'll stick with it.
The president was asked today in an appearance whether or not he believes that this is a proxy war between NATO and the United States and Russia, as Russia has claimed. Here's what he said.
They're not true. They do concern me because it shows the desperation that Russia is feeling about their abject failure in being able to do what they set out to do in the first instance.
So he says that Russia is just saying this is a proxy war because we couldn't get it done in Ukraine. So now we're going to say that the United States and NATO are ganging up on us. Can he sell that in Russia?
I don't know if he can sell it or not, but watch out for Moldova. He may expand the map here. He may get more aggressive militarily. And if the Chinese are supplying him with drones to carry out the war crimes being committed, then we should start sanctioning China. What I worry about is that China is all in with Putin. They don't have many friends on the planet. Putin's their best friend, maybe their last friend. So as this gets more desperate inside of Ukraine for the Russian military, watch what China does. The idea of exploding a nuclear device to rattle the whole world is now, I think, possible. And what is the response? The response to me would be, to Putin, if you explode a nuclear weapon inside of Ukraine, we're going to consider that attack on NATO itself, because the radiation will go all over. If you use a chemical weapon to try to suppress eastern Ukraine, then we'll impose a no-fly zone. This idea of being uncertain about what you would do regarding the use of a nuclear device needs to end. We need to let him know, if you explode a nuclear device, you're picking a war, a bigger war, and you will certainly lose it.
Senator, I want to pivot to the economy now. Top story today, we got that read on economic growth, and it was negative in the first quarter of the year. It was the first drop in economic growth in this country since the beginning of the pandemic. Markets are reacting for many different reasons, but worth pointing out, highs of the session right now. You can speculate all day on that. But there is a serious inflation crisis that continues to challenge the American family. And Nancy Pelosi just took a question from our own reporter, Chad Pergram, at her briefing earlier, and she sniped at him for suggesting Democrats are to blame for high gas prices. Listen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Do you think that the public is blaming Democrats or will continue to blame Democrats on gas prices?
I don't think the public is blaming Democrats. I think they're blaming the oil companies. They will blame all of us if we don't do something about the fossil fuel industry. If the Republicans stand in the way of us freeing the consumer of the stranglehold of big oil, you think they're going to blame that on the Democrats? You think that. You think that.
Senator, your reaction.
Here's what I think. I think the American people have had it with the Biden administration's policy on oil and gas. They ran a campaign based on the idea, if you put us in charge, we're going to destroy American fossil fuels. They have done it. They've shut down the Keystone Pipeline. They made it harder for refineries to operate. We're begging other countries around the world to produce more oil and gas because they can't do it here at home because they run into the squad. So the American people are going to lay the blame at the feet of Joe Biden. When he ran as a candidate, he promised to stop fracking and shut down oil exploration on the government-owned lands. He's to blame, not Putin. He's to blame, Biden.
All right. Senator Lindsey Graham, as always, great to have you in today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator.